Karen's desperate schemes reached an entirely new level when she attempted to trap me with fake officers. It was a calculated attempt to create chaos, manipulate authority, and seize control of my property while relying on intimidation and deception. She likely believed that her fabricated law enforcement presence would force compliance, but she had gravely underestimated one critical factor. The real deal would always intervene. The day began quietly, with Karen and her accomplices preparing for what they thought would be a flawless operation. They coordinated their arrival, complete with fake badges and uniforms, intending to make it appear as though they had legitimate legal authority. The plan was simple: create enough confusion and fear that I would be forced to yield my property. What she did not anticipate was the level of preparation, foresight, and vigilance that had been cultivated over the course of our previous encounters. As the imposters arrived, Karen watched from a distance, confident in her control. They knocked on the cabin door, announcing themselves as officers and attempting to intimidate anyone inside. Their confidence, however, was misplaced. I recognized the scheme immediately, observing the inconsistencies in their uniforms, the incorrect procedure, and the lack of official identification. What they intended as an act of dominance was, in reality, a clumsy deception. I calmly confronted them, exposing their lack of legitimacy and clearly stating that they were trespassing on private property. Karen's smug expression began to falter as she realized her plan was unraveling in real time. The faux officers stammered, caught off guard by the unwavering authority I displayed. Their attempt at intimidation evaporated instantly under scrutiny and decisive action. Just as Karen began to panic, the real law enforcement arrived, summoned in advance to monitor potential harassment and manipulation. The contrast was immediate and stark. The imposters, who had hoped to wield fear as their weapon, were now exposed and facing immediate consequences. Karen's plan had backfired spectacularly. Her attempt to manipulate authority had been entirely thwarted by vigilance and preparation. The officers quickly assessed the situation, verifying identification, confirming legal ownership of the property, and detaining the imposters. Karen's shock was palpable. She had assumed that fake authority could coerce compliance, but she had completely underestimated the real enforcement mechanisms in place. Her panic grew as the gravity of her miscalculation became clear. This was no longer a petty HOA dispute but a legal and public humiliation. Neighbors and witnesses, who had observed the arrival of the fake officers and the ensuing chaos, were astonished. Karen, once viewed as a dominant and intimidating figure, was now exposed as manipulative, reckless, and completely incapable of anticipating consequences. Her attempts to enforce control through deception had been publicly dismantled, leaving her humiliated in front of everyone she sought to impress or intimidate. By the end of the day, the imposters were removed from the property. Karen was left speechless, and the cabin remained secure. Her attempt to manipulate law enforcement and create fear had failed utterly. Every move she had made, every scheme she had attempted, had only highlighted her lack of foresight, preparation, and credibility. The aftermath sent a clear message. No matter how elaborate or audacious the scheme, true authority, vigilance, and lawful action will always prevail over deception and intimidation. Karen's repeated miscalculations had culminated in this public failure, reinforcing a pattern of escalating desperation and complete ineffectiveness. For Karen, the lesson was brutal and unavoidable. Her reliance on fear, manipulation, and fake authority had collapsed under scrutiny, leaving her powerless, exposed, and humiliated. The cabin remained untouched, the property secure, and the saga continued to unfold with Karen's repeated failures becoming increasingly evident to all who observed. Her obsession with control, her entitlement, and her reckless attempts to manipulate both people and law had once again been defeated by preparation, authority, and vigilance. The events of this day would linger as a reminder of her limitations and a testament to the consequences of arrogance and overreach.